this thing on? Because it's getting ready to be on.
Hello everybody and welcome to Bell Ringer. My name is Greg. Your guest name is Steve Ranalli from the Erie Canal Harbor Development Corporation. We talk about the Outer Harbor, we talk about Canalside, what's next, what got us here, successes, the history, all the good stuff, and programming near the end, what events you can expect to see and attend this winter and next summer. So it's a great episode. I hope you guys enjoy. Thank you so much for listening. All right, well, thank you very much for coming in. If you don't mind introducing yourself and your position to the listeners.
Yeah, I'm Steve Ranalli. I'm a Vice President of Waterfront Development with the Erie Canal Harbor Development Corporation.
And for those that don't know, what is the Erie Canal Harbor Development Corp?
We're a subsidiary of Empire State Development, the economic development wing for the state, and specifically we're focused on redeveloping Buffalo's waterfront.
Great. So, are you originally from Buffalo?
I am. I grew up in the South Towns and went to school at UB, and I've been working here ever since.
And how long have you been with ECHCC?
I started in 2008, actually, so going on just about 11 years.
Great. And what was it like in 2008 when you started compared to now? What's different?
It's changed. I mean, we were at a point back in 2008 where we were just opening the first phase of Canalside, the Erie Canal, the harbor, and the commercial slip, which was great to be a part of. And then, we were talking about sort of a retail-oriented development for the Main Street that took its own path to where we are today. But yet, people back then were really still asking the question, am I going to see something done? Is anything going to happen in my lifetime? Is any of this real or just more talk? And I think we're just so well past that in terms of where we are on the waterfront and even in the city.
Right. So I think a lot of the success at Canalside has been so, well publicized. I wanted to start with the Outer Harbor, which is kind of in its earlier stages of becoming whatever it is going to become, and that's what I hope to find out from you. So I know you've recently had some public meetings, correct? With I saw some Facebook invites out. And
yeah, absolutely. We had our second open house in November before Thanksgiving, and like I said, that was the second one. We had one earlier in the summer, but we're sort of in the middle of a 9-month process here, reaching out to the public. We started early on and gathering ideas to see what people wanted on the waterfront, and then we took a lot of that information and came up with different concepts and alternatives for the first Buffalo River Marina, which is about a 15-acre parcel up at the north end. And then we've got the middle zone, if you will, from Wilkinson Point down to Bell Slip, and then the third project was Terminal B at the southern end. But we're looking at all those comprehensively. So we took the ideas we heard from the public and came up with various alternatives for each. And that's what we presented this past November for additional feedback.
Right. And how has participation been, or how many people are you seeing at these events?
It's been good, and it's been growing. So we probably had about 150, maybe closer to 200 people at that second open house, which was about double what we had at the first. So, it was good to see people there and interacting with the consultants and ourselves. But then we've done online surveys as well. So we're really getting responses, 300-400 people at each one of these phases to go online, take the survey, or come to the meetings. And we've had really good input from people.
And is there any consensus among the group that seems like at least a portion of it is something obvious that the community wants, or is it a mixed bag?
It's always a mixed bag, but I do think there's a consensus around the Outer Harbor being less developed than Canalside. So we're seeing people who are really interested in more open space and trails. Not a lot of significant development, and that's what we really heard consistently for the last couple of years. So it's we're working with the groups on the active recreational pieces like the bike park that will be opening this May, more of that or not. But definitely a complement to Canalside is what people are interested in.
Right. And for those that maybe don't know, what's there now? What's the landscape now? And you mentioned Wilkinson Point. I know that's a place people visit often. Give us what do we have now and what's to come?
Sure. Well, we have 200 acres of open space out there now, and Wilkinson Point is about 14 acres of that overall space. So a lot of people have gotten out there. And Wilkinson Point, it's a large lawn area with a small beach. There's some food and beverage opportunities, kayak rental, bike rental, trail network, the great wind sculptures up on top of the point itself, so you can look out over the lake. It's a really nice spot to go out and relax. And so I said we have an additional 180 some acres to look at as well. At the southern end, we're going to be installing a bike park and a larger events lawn, so we can start to move some of the heritage festivals. And we haven't had concerts in a while, but those type of events, if they occur in the Outer Harbor, will be down further to the south. But that's what I think people are interested in, is just getting out there, walking, enjoying a sunset, just a quieter experience.
And Canalside's been so popular, and yet there's a demand for a complement, or almost the opposite of that. Why that juxtaposition, or how do you see it?
Well, I think, right there at Canalside, we're at the foot of Main Street, we're in the downtown zone, and the history of the place, that was, where the city started, literally, not just figuratively. And so putting back buildings, developing a neighborhood, getting people to live down there as well as work and play, that's critical to the development of the downtown area as well as the waterfront. And the amount of programming we do, the amount of people that are down there, it's fantastic. But at the same time, people do enjoy getting to the waterfront and having a quieter experience. So being able to, I think, have a waterfront that people can enjoy all of those things, and we can offer a wider range of opportunities for folks, that's just better for the waterfront. I think it's better for the city.
Right. And we've seen, you talked a little bit about Canalside's history and significance in the city. How is that being taken into account for the Outer Harbor, and is it a concern of yours?
It's definitely something that's come up from the stakeholders. The cultural heritage of the Outer Harbor is as important as it is at Canalside. And so there's elements like the connecting terminal grain elevator, which you can see, right? We've lit that up at night. We have a great public art display on that currently. That's that. There's portions of the original seawall that are well over 100 years old that were there in order to establish the Outer Harbor at the time. Even some of the slips that remain out there really are remnants from, going back nearly 100 years now of what the vision for the Outer Harbor property was, which was a large port, coupled with Terminal A, which is down at the southern end. So there is a fair amount of history there. It's a part of the overall waterfront story. And we definitely want to be able to work with those elements and tell the cultural heritage stories as part of whatever we do out there.
Right. Why do you think a revived waterfront is important, not just for Buffalo, but it seems for any city, and cities across the country are following that mold?
I think it's a quality of life issue. The waterfront, getting back to the water, if there's one thing where we start, it's access to the water. That's always been important to people here. For years and years, the industrial landscape here shut off the waterfront to most people, unless you worked at Bethlehem Steel or something like that. That was your chance to get close to it. But now that the river's being cleaned up and people are getting back downtown, it's just one of those things. People really do connect with the water, and they really do enjoy that experience here in Buffalo, like many other cities around the country, around the world. So bringing people to the water's edge, hopefully even getting people onto the water, over the water, all those sorts of experiences are really important quality of life.
Right. And for a city like us, with our climate and the perception we get, a couple of the travel stories that were published about Buffalo this summer, everybody's impressed with the waterfront and that it's not snow all the time, right?
Yeah, that's right. We've had a bad rap for a while, but The greatest part about the waterfront is, yes, we have these summers that nobody knows about, but we're exposing people to. But putting in the ice rink at Canalside and celebrating winter, I know that was a cover shot for Visit Buffalo Niagara on one of the little magazines or brochures they put out there. And I think we're finally coming around to not only accepting that we have winter here, but celebrating the winter here and promoting it. So I think we all know we have a great 4 seasons in Buffalo and Western New York, and I would assume more and more people will find out about that as they come here.
Yeah, the more kayak photos in the New York Times, the better.
Yeah, that's right. Well, kayak logjams on the waterfront are definitely something we didn't have when I started, so We're happy about that.
Right. So we talked about the Outer Harbor, how it complements Canalside. Obviously, a lot's happened since you began in 2008, like we were talking about. What do you think is next to come for Canalside? What can people look forward to?
Well, in the immediate future, we'll be opening the Children's Museum. It's a project we've been working on for a while, but this spring we will have the grand opening of the Children's Museum, and that's right down on the canals. So that's going to be a really important next step. We are working with the Buffalo Maritime Center where the state will invest to put a building in down along the Central Wharf so that we can rebuild the replica packet boat, the original one that opened to the canal nearly 200 years ago. And then that building, after we're done building the boat, will actually be used to house some additional heritage projects and host the celebration for the 200th anniversary of the canal, which occurs in 2025. We continue to work with the Buffalo Heritage Carousel folks to bring a carousel down to Canalside. And then on the private development side, we have Sinatra's Heritage Point, and that's planned to get underway this year. Mixed-use development, 2 buildings near the Children's Museum with first floor restaurants and retail, some office space, and a significant amount of residential, which will really be the first new housing at Canalside. So for us, that's a big deal. And then we continue to work at the southern end of the Donovan block with the Bendersons about potentially moving that forward. And we are just about to take some consultant proposals in for the North Odd block. And this is referred to as the Hole, affectionately, by many people in town. But there's a 2-acre parcel just north of the canals that we're looking at filling in with structured parking and some of the missing historic streets. And that way we'll have shovel-ready development parcels to finish off the Odd block.
Right. And then on the event side, obviously you've had the concert series and artists and markets. What can people look forward to at Canalside?
Yeah, I think more of the same. We've done a fair amount of programming over the years, and we'll continue to do a lot of that this year, another concert season. But I think as the neighborhood evolves and grows, like I said, we're bringing residential down there that should be open in about a year and a half. And as we grow into a neighborhood, I can imagine the programming changing. I think we'll be doing less large-scale events, and really, again, this focus with the packet boat is really a way for us to get back into more of the heritage and cultural programming piece that I felt like we did back in 2011, 2012, a little bit more than we've done in the last few years. So I think we'll be refocusing the programming as we go.
Right. In your tenure, what do you think is your proudest moment, or what was the biggest turning point? I'll give you a couple options since those are tough questions to answer.
Yeah, well, there's a lot that's gone on. We've worked on so many projects down there, but I think one that gets overlooked a little bit in the grand scheme of things has been the Ohio Street project. It was our chance to take a really worn-out industrial corridor, the only real simple connection between the inner and the outer harbor, or between Canalside and the rest of the waterfront. And we repositioned that a bit more as a neighborhood street, a green connector with the bike path right there. And we're starting to see a lot of private development along that. So the work that water keepers and groups like that have done on the river, and then for us to be able to come in and do an infrastructure piece on land nearby, and now we're just starting to see that private development go. I think that was a really smart investment on our part that both connects the waterfront and allows that neighborhood to go. But certainly the pivot from, again, the earlier retail project that we had planned, and focusing more on the history, making sure we got the canals in their correct location on the odd block so we can continue to tell that story and then build around it. Those are all great, and again, we're just really getting into the start of the Outer Harbor and what that's going to become. So there's a lot to look forward to there as well.
Right. Well, thank you very much for your time. Before we let you go, we have a quick blizzard round, a couple hard-hitting journalistic questions. These will be the toughest
All
yet.
right.
If you were a flavor of ice cream, what would you be?
Vanilla.
Book or TV show that you'd recommend?
Oh my goodness, a book or a TV show. I'm going to have to pass. I'll come back to that one.
All right. Text or phone call?
Phone call.
Bills or Sabres?
Sabres.
Hiking or skiing?
Hiking.
Back to book or TV show that you'd recommend?
I just finished up David McCullough's book on the Wright brothers, which I really enjoyed. I'll recommend that.
Okay. And then last one, chicken wings, drumstick or flat?
Flat.
Great. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Bell Ringer is a podcast by Invest Buffalo Niagara, the region's privately funded, nonprofit marketing and economic development organization. Please rate this podcast, follow our social media channels, and read our blog at buffaloniagara.org for the best of Buffalo Niagara. Come grow your business with us.